Pen Made Mightier without poison.
Welcome back to Pen Made Mightier, episode 5 of our long-running Steven Universe series. We've got a lot to wrap up and a lot of little things I wanted to discuss about this fantastic series before we moved on to anything else. So buckle in, let's do this. First, early on I talked about chakras a little bit. Chakras being the points on the human body where energy collects according to Hindu mysticism and tons of other religions across the planet. There's a lot to talk about with chakras, mainly the fact that they exemplify all the pieces of our gems based on where their gem is located on their body. Each of these is located in a major or a minor chakra, and you can learn a lot about the characters based on what those chakras represent. Some of these are a little wonky, and I'll be willing to admit some of them are a bit of a stretch. But that being said, I still think all of it fits. So I call this more of a mini-theory than anything else. Pearl and Peridot both have their gems here, center of the forehead. That's the third eye chakra. Could be argued that it's the crown chakra, but I think the third eye chakra fits them better. So yeah, third eye chakra, at least for the purpose of this video. According to the all-powerful internet, if the third eye chakra is too open, they can become authoritarian, highly logical, to the point of just being dogmatic. This really sounds like Peridot to me, and it sounds like Pearl on her worst days. And since chakras can open and close, it makes sense that some days people are going to be better than others. If the third eye chakra is closed, then the person tends to fear success and set their sights too low. It can even lead to some schizophrenia in some cases. And if that's to be believed, it would explain why Hollow Pearl exists and why in all the thousands of years she's been on Earth staring at the stars, wanting to go home, Pearl has never thought once to build her own rocket ship. Yeah, to me this really does sound like Pearl. And I think she's working through that and working her way to balanced. When the third eye chakra is neither too open nor too closed, when it's balanced, they become intuitive, charismatic, and unattached to material possessions. And that sounds like Pearl on her absolute best days to me. Amethyst gemstone, right here, the heart chakra. And if you look at the chakras, they all line up at the center of the body. And lapises would be in the same spot on her back, meaning they occupy the same chakra point. The heart chakra has a lot to do with emotions, and based on how opened or closed it is, it really does fit these two ladies perfectly. If the heart chakra is too open, then the person can become possessive, and they can give their love very conditionally, and they can become very melodramatic, and that can fit early series Amethyst quite well. If the heart chakra gets blocked, a person can start to fear rejection. They start to wallow in self-pity, and they start to feel completely unworthy of the love that they've deserved. And that's definitely Lapis to a brutal T, at least until she starts to assert herself later on. But, like with Amethyst when she reformed finally, if once they find balance, the heart chakra can embody unconditional love and true empathy. And we definitely see this empathy when Pearl has fused into Sardonyx and betrayed Garnet's trust. Amethyst is the first to spring to her defense, saying she understands how she feels and how she wants Garnet to just take it easy on her because it's their chance to feel strong. And I think this is a new side to Amethyst. I think it's a balanced side to Amethyst. I like this Amethyst. Well, I liked every Amethyst too, am I kidding? Now, when it comes to Jasper, there's no nose chakra, but the weapon forms into a helm. I'm going to count that as crown chakra because it's just what makes sense. Plus, Garnet, who has her gems in her hand, the hand is a mirror to the crown chakra, meaning it embodies much of the same points, maybe to a finer detail. Plus, the open and closed fit perfectly, so just bear with me. If the crown chakra is too open, then the person can exhibit some psychopathic tendencies, they can become completely irrational, and they can become very frustrated with their unrealized power. Jasper, 100% when she lands on this planet, right? Right? Yeah, I'm right. Again, if it gets blocked, the person can start to feel exhausted and unable to make decisions properly, and they feel like they don't belong. Garnet has broken up a few times now, or at least come close to it, because of an inability to decide. an inability to have a unified response to a stimuli. So, it makes sense that if Garnet's balance gets thrown out of whack, it can become closed and blocked. But for our girl Garnet, and possibly for our lady Jasper as well, if the crown chakra is at balance, there's an inner peace that flows through the person. They become very magnetic, and beyond that, they can accomplish miracles. There's nothing truer for Garnet. Garnet has accomplished more in this series than anyone. And that's why Garnet is best mom. Last, we're left with Stephen and Rose Quartz. Theirs is the sacral chakra, which is associated with the womb, located on the stomach, obviously. And it has a lot of profound impacts on these two characters. If the sacral chakra is too open, the person becomes a fantasist, someone who thinks that the world can just exist in perfect harmony, and that's Rose to a T. They can also become manipulative, which you could argue for Rose, as she withheld a lot of information from her team and still got them to fight on her side. Plus, she was also known to command an army of plants who she made fight for her, possibly because of her true love for all living things, but manipulation's manipulation, man. If the sacral chakra gets blocked, the person becomes overly sensitive and impotent, and they have feelings of intense guilt. Stephen's gone through all of these things at one time or another, be it trouble summoning his powers, or feeling he's too old for birthdays, or perhaps just feeling like he doesn't really belong with the gems. Stephen has associated being closed off from his sacral chakra many times. When the sacral chakra is balanced, though, the person becomes trusting, expressive, attuned to their surroundings, and infinitely creative. And Stephen is, if anything, extremely creative. Is that breakfast, man? Ooh, I don't know how he eats popcorn on pancakes. That scares the bejesus out of me. So, chakras aside, let's move on to the next point. I want to talk about the fact that Steven Universe manages to deal with some serious, complex social topics most shows in prime time on Fox would shy away from. They do it with chutzpah. Ruby and Sapphire in a complex same-sex relationship, but they have their ups and they have their downs. They even have arguments and disagreements that are founded on real issues, not just a bunch of trivial bullcrap that they throw on us for most sitcoms and TV dramas nowadays. They've got some real heart to their relationship, and when trouble arises, it arises in real ways. They even deal with hermaphroditic and ungendered people with Stevani, being both genders and no gender at the same time. And beyond just that, Stevani's a fantastic lesson on consent. So much so that even Polygon and a few other sites have done fantastic articles talking about how consent is explored in Steven Universe. And I can't agree more. They've also struck a remarkable gender balance in this show. If you're willing to consider the gems female, at the very least they're feminine. And if we're counting just the gems and none of the fusions except for Garnet, because I won't count Garnet out of this, then we're at 18 females. If you count each of the fusions as their own individual character, we're at 23. So, as you can see, the gender balance is actually pretty close in male to female, 16 to 18 or 16 to 23 if you count each of the fusions. But I still hear people talk all the time about how this show is predominantly female, and I guess that's still true, but only by a slight margin. It's interesting because there's a lot of media problems in this world stemming from the fact that most shows revolve around 4 or 5 guys, 1 or 2 girls, and this has started to become common, and it's what people think of as natural. People have even started to feel like it's unnatural to have lots of girls and only a few guys. And well, that's a problem for us to work on for future media. I like the fact that Steven Universe is paving the way, though. Kudos. Also, how did this cartoon manage to get the fact that everybody goes through a crisis of faith once in a while and nail it with every single attempt? Every character has been through a crisis, be it Pearl going through a crisis of self and separating her ideals from that of Rose Quartz, Amethyst struggling with the fact that she was born in the kindergarten and is one of the only gems not from Homeworld, Steven trying to deal with the fact that he's not his mom and at the same time not knowing his mom and being the only gem who can't use their powers, Greg dealing with the loss of his lover and at the same time sometimes having to come face to face with it, like when Amethyst does her thing, which I don't see how he forgave her. He's a better man than I am. Even Garnet, who literally has split decisions on a lot of things, and Connie, who goes through feelings of inadequacy when compared to Steven and his universe, lend to the fact that every character questions themselves and questions where they are, but they come back stronger for it. I think that's remarkable. I can only hope that I can write something that deep and cool one day. I really am envious of this team for pulling that off. Beyond just that, though, they pay homage to everything that has inspired them up until this point. We get references to, well, you know what? There's a big list, and you guys should really go check that out, because they recap the stuff better than I do. But the things that stuck out to me were Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Sonic the Hedgehog, even a little nod to RPG World, since Ian J is working on the show and he was the creator of RPG World. They even make nods to Revolutionary Girl Utena and Purple Rain, of all things. They even pay some homage to their own pilot episode in showing the forms of the pilot versions of the Crystal Gems as previous incarnations when the gems reform, like with Pearl. That's brilliant. And well, everyone likes a little bit of referential humor, but this is more of a tip of the hat to things that have come before, a thank you to the things that have inspired them. It's nice to see. Anyway, that about wraps up our series on Steven Universe. We've talked about fantastic writing up till this point. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up doing another 2 or 3 episodes on this by the end of the show's run, because every new episode brings something more to talk about, something more to explore. I highly encourage you to go and check out this series if you haven't already. And if you have, let me talk about it with you in the comments. Absolutely go nuts. And if you want to keep up with more of our videos, subscribe. Share it on Reddit. Share it on Facebook. Mail posters of it to your great aunt Charlene. I don't really care what you do. But if you don't want to do any of that, that's fine too. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video. Next time we'll talk about something a little bit different, finally. Anyway, thanks for sticking with us. Bye, guys.